The first thing I hear is glass breaking. Not a cup or a window. Richard Lawson's voice shattering against the boardroom walls. What the hell did you tell the merger company? It's Friday, 10:59 a.m., and the entire executive floor is shaking with that single question. The sound of phones buzzing, chairs scraping, lawyers whispering, it's chaos contained inside polished glass. I'm standing at the far end of the table, my palms steady against the cold surface. They're all looking at me, the woman they fired 48 hours ago, the woman who built the only thing keeping this company alive. I meet Richard's eyes. You should check your inbox. I say. He blinks. His son, Brady, the new vice president. All confidence and cologne leans forward. What did you do? Elira. I don't answer. Instead, I open my laptop. The screen flickers to life, and a digital clock flashes red 00:15. 15 seconds. No one moves. The countdown ticks loud enough to feel it in the air. Richard's voice lowers, almost pleading now. Elira, let's talk about this. Whatever this is. Too late. The timer hits 0. A single chime echoes through the speakers. Then the screen fills with one clean line of text. Transfer complete. Secure rights. Vance. E. Brady's jaw drops. You can't. I tell him. You signed the termination notice yourself. Richard's phone rings. Once. Twice. Then over and over as others join in a chorus of panic. He answers. I watch his expression collapse. They're saying the merger's frozen, he mutters. The lawyer's Stellantis is pulling out. I close the laptop, slide it into my bag, and smooth the wrinkles on my gray blazer. You fired me 48 hours before my bonus, I remind him. That payment wasn't just a paycheck, it was ownership. The room falls silent except for the hollow sound of air conditioning. Brady's staring at me like he's seeing a ghost. I turn toward the door. You wanted to prove you could run this company without me. I say softly, now you can try. And as I step into the hallway, leaving their panic behind, I finally let my breath go because 5 days ago, on Monday morning, I already knew this moment was coming. The coffee on my desk was still warm when I saw it, an envelope stamped with Thunder Automotive Systems' silver logo. My name printed neatly across the center. No meeting request. No knock on the door. Just paper. The words were short and surgical. Effective immediately. Position terminated. 27 years reduced to 5 sentences and a signature from Brady Lawson. Vice President of Strategic Development, 28 years old, CEO's son. The kind of man who still thinks punctuality is a personality trait. I stood there for a while, staring at the letter under the sterile glow of the ceiling lights. Around me, the office hummed with the rhythm of ordinary life phones ringing, keyboards clacking, muffled laughter near the glass break room. No one knew yet. They wouldn't until HR sent the organizational update. I slipped the letter into my bag and sat down, letting my hands rest flat on the desk. My workstation still smelled faintly of solder and coolant, traces of late nights spent perfecting the auto-secure system, the very technology that had made Thunder worth $420 million in merger negotiations. My work, my fingerprints in every line of code, every patent form. Brady must have thought he was clever, firing me before the Friday bonus payout. Maybe he imagined himself saving the company a chunk of cash and earning a round of applause from the board. He didn't read the contracts, not the ones Frank Rodriguez had drafted 15 years ago. Brady played chess without realizing the game was already over. I opened my drawer and pulled out a small black USB drive. It looked ordinary cheap plastic, scratched from years of use. I set it gently on the edge of the desk where the morning light could catch it. A decoy. It had been empty for years. But people like Brady never resist shiny objects. I glanced once more around the room, the wall of awards, the team photos, the quiet hum of servers down the hall. Then I stood, smoothed the crease in my blazer, and walked out without a word. At the security gate, The guard scanned my badge and frowned when the system flashed red. "You all right?" "Ms. Vance, I am now," I said, and as the turnstile clicked open, I didn't look back. The coffee on my desk was still warm when I saw it, an envelope stamped with Thunder Automotive Systems' silver logo, my name printed neatly across the center. No meeting request, no knock on the door, just paper. The words were short and surgical. Effective immediately. Position terminated. 27 years reduced to 5 sentences and a signature from Brady Lawson, Vice President of Strategic Development, 28 years old, CEO's son, the kind of man who still thinks punctuality is a personality trait. I stood there for a while, staring at the letter under the sterile glow of the ceiling lights. Around me, the office hummed with the rhythm of ordinary life phones ringing, keyboards clacking, muffled laughter near the glass break room. No one knew yet. They wouldn't until HR sent the organizational update. I slipped the letter into my bag and sat down, letting my hands rest flat on the desk. My workstation still smelled faintly of solder and coolant, traces of late nights spent perfecting the auto-secure system, the very technology that had made Thunder worth $420 million in merger negotiations. My work, my fingerprints in every line of code, every patent form. Brady must have thought he was clever, firing me before the Friday bonus payout. Maybe he imagined himself saving the company a chunk of cash and earning a round of applause from the board. He didn't read the contracts, not the ones Frank Rodriguez had drafted 15 years ago. Brady played chess without realizing the game was already over. I opened my drawer and pulled out a small black USB drive. It looked ordinary cheap plastic, scratched from years of use. I set it gently on the edge of the desk where the morning light could catch it. A decoy. It had been empty for years, but people like Brady never resist shiny objects. I glanced once more around the room, the wall of awards, the team photos, the quiet hum of servers down the hall. Then I stood, smoothed the crease in my blazer, and walked out without a word. At the security gate, the guard scanned my badge and frowned when the system flashed red. "You all right?" "Ms. Vance, I am now," I said, and as the turnstile clicked open, I didn't look back. That evening, Detroit looked the way it always did in February, gray sky pressed low, streets wet with half-melted snow, the smell of exhaust and salt hanging in the air. I drove home on autopilot, past the same diner Frank and I used to stop at after long shifts. He'd order black coffee and talk about unions, loyalty, and how you never let a company own your soul. Frank Rodriguez had been Thunder's founder and, for me, the closest thing to family inside those steel walls. A man who still carried his UAW badge in his wallet long after he became CEO. He hired me in 1998, back when Thunder was just a half-lit warehouse and 3 borrowed computers. He used to say, "Elira, code is only as strong as the people it protects." When he died, he left behind more than machines. He left a blueprint for survival written in the fine print no one else cared to read. At my kitchen table, I poured a cup of coffee and pulled up a folder on my personal drive labeled Legacy. Inside was a scanned copy of my employment contract from 15 years ago, one Frank had drafted himself. I remembered sitting in his office as he explained it, the smell of motor oil and burnt coffee mixing with his grin. "It's simple," he'd said. "When that yearly bonus hits your account, the intellectual property you've built auto-secure, all of it transfers to you, automatically, legally. It's protection from anyone who thinks they can treat you like a replaceable part." At the time, I thought he was being sentimental. I didn't realize he was giving me armor. I scrolled through the clauses, my cursor stopping at Section 9B, upon payment of the annual performance bonus. Full legal ownership of any original system developed under employee's direction shall transfer to employee. That was it. No loopholes, no signatures missing. Filed with the state. Notarized, sealed, outside, wind rattled the windows. I could almost hear Frank's voice. "They'll forget what they sign, but paper remembers." I opened my terminal, typed in a command, and set a countdown 48 hours. When the timer hit 0 Friday, 11:00 a.m., ownership of AutoSecure would be mine. and Thunder Automotive would finally learn what it meant to underestimate the woman who built their empire. By Tuesday morning, the silence had started to crack. My phone buzzed before sunrise. Unknown number, Detroit area code, then another, and another. I didn't answer any of them. I just poured coffee, sat by the window, and watched the snow slide off the bird feeder in slow folds. When the fourth call came, the voicemail transcribed automatically on my screen. Mrs. Vance. This is Rebecca Martinez from Automotive News. We've received information suggesting recent personnel changes at Thunder Automotive may impact the Stellantis merger. Would you like to comment? I smiled faintly. News travels fast when billions are at stake. On my home server, the countdown read 36 hours, 12 minutes, 42 seconds. I refreshed the dashboard, everything running perfectly. The automation scripts, the escrow verification, the legal notice templates waiting in draft. Frank's clause wasn't just a safeguard, it was a fuse wired into the company's foundation. By 8 a.m., another message blinked in Catherine Walsh, legal counsel for Stellantis North America. Her email was short and formal. Please confirm continued employment of key personnel listed under Section 12 Vance. E. Lead Systems Architect. Compliance verification required. Section 12. The clause every merger lawyer feared. It required essential personnel to remain employed until integration completed, or the buyer could renegotiate or walk away entirely. Without me, Thunder's merger wasn't just unstable, it was invalid. Across town, in Thunder's glass tower, Brady Lawson must have been realizing that. The market opened at 9:30, and by 10, the first alert hit my phone. Thunder Automotive down 12%. After reports of personnel disruption, I pictured him pacing in his corner office, calling legal, demanding someone restore access to systems that no longer recognized his credentials. Every password, every key, every certificate tied back to mine, and mine was revoked when he fired me. The irony would have been sweet if it weren't so predictable. I took another sip of coffee, the bitter warmth grounding me. Outside, the sky hung heavy over Detroit, the same gray that had followed me through every layoff, every crisis, every supposed turnaround. The difference this time was simple. I wasn't the one waiting for someone else's decision. The countdown ticked on, steady and patient, while the world I'd built for them began to tremble. The call came just after noon, while I was reviewing old blueprints Frank and I had annotated years ago. The name Gerald Pierce flashed on my phone, one of Thunder's original board members. A man who'd once toasted my 25th work anniversary with a handshake and a promise, "We'll never forget who built this place." "Ms. Vance," he said, skipping any greeting. "What the hell are you doing?" I let the question hang. His voice carried the same tone the factory foreman used when a machine jammed on the line, anger hiding fear. "You think you're proving a point because what you've done is throw 847 people into chaos." I closed the blueprint folder. "Gerald, I didn't start this. Brady did when he terminated me without reading what he signed." He exhaled sharply. "Maybe, but the press doesn't care about details. They're already running headlines about a lead engineer gone rogue. Investors are panicking. Hourly workers are scared. You built this company's backbone, and now you're cracking it." His words landed heavier than I expected. I hadn't pictured the faces behind those numbers, the welders, the testers, the night shift cleaners. They weren't part of Brady's arrogance. They were just trying to make rent. Frank wrote that clause to protect the work. I said quietly, "Not to destroy it." "Then act like it." Gerald's voice softened. "He trusted you to know the difference." The line clicked dead. For a moment, the house felt too still. The hum of the refrigerator, the faint rattle of the furnace, it all pressed in. I had wanted accountability, not collateral damage. My laptop chimed with a new message. "Aaliyah Torres. He offered me your job." She wrote, "CTO, full title, big salary." I turned it down. I called her. "You didn't have to do that." "I did," she said. "I don't work for people who treat engineers like expenses." "You taught me that." Her voice was steady, but I heard the weight in it, the same tired conviction I'd once carried for Frank. After we hung up, I sat staring at the silent countdown on my screen. 28 hours, 7 minutes. Justice, I thought, shouldn't come with casualties. But sometimes the line between justice and revenge blurred so thin you could mistake one for the other. That night, I couldn't sleep. The city outside was quiet, but my mind wasn't. The countdown glowed faintly on the monitor across the room. 17 hours, 43 minutes, its red light pulsing like a second heartbeat. I was halfway through pouring myself another cup of coffee when my phone buzzed. The caller ID read Thunder Automotive Conference Line, an old dial-in still saved from when I'd been part of the executive team. Maybe a slip. Maybe a ghost of a meeting I no longer belonged to. I answered out of habit, expecting silence. Instead, voices. "You wanted to prove yourself," Richard Lawson was saying, his tone brittle and raw. "But in the process, you burned the bridge that held us up." Brady's voice came next, shaky but defiant. "I was saving money." "You keep telling the board we need to modernize, cut legacy costs. That's what I did. By firing the one person who made this merger possible." Richard's anger cracked into disbelief. "You don't save a company by amputating its heart." I stood in my kitchen, frozen, listening to a conversation I was never meant to hear. Their voices echoed faintly through the speaker, punctuated by the dull hum of the office HVAC in the background. Brady's tone faltered. "You think I wanted this? I thought I thought she'd just retire quietly." "You said it yourself, she'd been here forever. She earned that right," Richard snapped. "You took it from her, and from all of us." Silence stretched for a long moment. Then Brady spoke again, softer. "I just wanted you to see I could handle it, that I could lead like you." Richard's reply came almost as a whisper. "Then you should have started by listening." I lowered the phone, my breath catching. It was strange hearing the two of them stripped of their boardroom armor, just a father and a son stumbling over the ruins of pride. For the first time since this began, I heard something new in Brady's voice, not arrogance, not calculation, but guilt. Real, unvarnished guilt. I ended the call and set the phone down beside the cooling coffee. Outside, a gust of wind rattled the window pane, and for a fleeting second, the anger that had kept me steady all week began to loosen its grip. By Thursday night, the city had gone dark under a thin curtain of snow. Streetlights shimmered in the slush outside my window while the countdown on my screen pulsed relentlessly. 12 hours, 03 minutes, 19 seconds. The hum of the servers filled the room, steady as breathing. An unread email blinked in my inbox. Thomas Mitchell, Executive Vice President at Stellantis. Miss Vance, Stellantis is prepared to offer you a direct consulting arrangement for auto-secure development. 3-year contract. Total compensation, $8 million. Please confirm availability to discuss before 11:00 a.m. tomorrow. I stared at the numbers on the screen. $8 million more money than I'd ever imagined earning in a lifetime at Thunder. Enough to secure my future, pay off my mortgage, fund scholarships for every young engineer I'd mentored. And all it would take was one decision, let the clock run out. I heard the front door creak open. Linda Pierce, my oldest friend, stepped inside carrying a thermos of soup and that familiar look that said she already knew I hadn't eaten. She'd been there through everything our college days at Wayne State, my first promotion, Frank's funeral. "You've got that look," she said, setting the thermos down. "The one that means you're about to do something permanent." I smiled faintly. "I got an offer. From Stellantis." She sat across from me, folding her hands. "Let me guess, more money than you can count. No strings attached. Except for one," I said quietly. "Thunder dies." Linda didn't flinch. "Frank didn't build that clause so you could burn the house down. Elira, he built it to make sure no one else could." Her words landed harder than I wanted to admit. I glanced back at the screen, at the 2 drafts already waiting in my outbox. One titled Termination Notice, License Suspension. The other, Provisional License Reinstatement. One would finish what Brady started. The other would save the work and everyone tied to it. The snow outside thickened, blurring the streetlights into halos. I deleted both drafts and opened a blank message, fingers resting on the keys. "Let the clock decide," I murmured. Linda reached over, squeezed my hand once, and nodded. The servers kept humming, the countdown kept falling, and I sat in that dim kitchen, waiting for morning to tell me what kind of person I really was. The elevator doors opened to the 22nd floor, and for the first time all week, I felt the weight of the building again, the smell of polished glass, burnt coffee, and nervous ambition. The receptionist froze when she saw me. No badge, no title, but everyone knew why I was there. "Conference room A," she said quietly. "They're waiting. Inside." The air felt dense with anticipation. Richard Lawson sat at the head of the table, dark circles under his eyes. Brady was nowhere to be seen. The rest of the board lined the walls like statues, their faces drawn tight. Thomas Mitchell from Stellantis stood near the projector, papers in hand, his expression unreadable. The only sound was the soft tick of the wall clock, 10:58 a.m. I placed my laptop on the table and opened it. "Before we begin," I said, "I'd like to confirm that all contractual payments have been processed." Gerald cleared his throat. "Accounting confirmed it this morning. The funds were released at 10:59. The second hand moved, 10:59:45. Then you all know what happens next. As the clock struck 11:00, the chime from my computer echoed through the room. One line appeared across the screen. "Transfer complete. Ought. O secure rights. Vance. E." The tension snapped like a wire. Richard leaned forward, his voice barely above a whisper. "You own it now." "I do," I said. "Which means Thunder currently has no legal right to its core system." Gasps, shifting chairs, a murmur of panic. I let the silence settle before continuing. "But I didn't come here to bury what we built. I came to finish it properly." Thomas Mitchell stepped closer, cautious. "You're proposing to restore the license under 3 conditions." I met each of their eyes in turn. "First, Aaliyah Torres is promoted to Chief Technology Officer, effective immediately. She's the only one who understands the architecture and the responsibility that comes with it. Second, Thunder establishes a mentorship program for young engineers, funded directly by executive bonuses. Third, I'll stay on as a consultant for 6 months, remote, to oversee the transition. After that, I'm done." The room went still. Then Richard nodded, his voice cracking. "Agreed." I clicked authorize. Another chime. "License, restored rights shared." For the first time in days, I exhaled. Outside the glass walls, Detroit's skyline shimmered in winter light, and I realized the storm was finally over. By evening, Detroit had quieted, the storm had passed, leaving the streets slick with silver light and the faint hum of traffic drifting in from the freeway. I sat on the porch with Linda, 2 mugs of beer sweating between us, the skyline glowing orange in the distance. The emails had stopped. The reporters, the lawyers, the board, they all had what they needed. The merger was alive again. Thunder Automotive would move forward under new leadership, and I was free of it at last. Linda leaned back in her chair, wrapping her sweater tighter. "You look different," she said. "I feel different," I admitted. "Lighter, maybe." My laptop sat on the table beside us, closed for the first time in years. The screen no longer pulsed with countdowns or contracts. Just silence, the kind of quiet I hadn't realized I missed. A notification buzzed softly on my phone. "Aaliyah, we did it. Thank you." I smiled, picturing her in that glass office, sleeves rolled up, surrounded by engineers who finally had someone who listened. Frank would have liked her. She worked for the craft, not the credit. Linda raised her mug. "To endings," she said. "To beginnings," I replied. We sat there for a long time, watching the city breathe under its winter haze. The lights of the riverfront flickered like heartbeat monitors, steady and alive. Somewhere downtown, the company I'd given half my life to was still running new people, new voices, new mistakes to make. But the system was safe, the work protected. I closed my eyes and exhaled. The work outlives us, I said softly. That's all that matters. Linda didn't answer. She didn't have to. The city did. In its own quiet way, steady, relentless, and still standing.